we have a fantastic company to feature today. It's MacLean Engineering. We have Maarten van Koppen. He is the VP of Product Management at MacLean Engineering. You probably already know who they are and a bit about what they do, but Maarten is going to expand on it and talk about some of the development, talk about some of their projects. And of course, that's all ties in with the mining industry moving towards greener operations. So lots to cover. Maarten, welcome to the show. It's really good to have you on.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I look forward to this podcast.
Well, let's start off with, well, how long have you been with MacLean yourself?
Just over 2 years now. So I started when everything was going south in the world, and it was an interesting experience coming on board. And it's fantastic to see people in 3D again. So happy to be here for sure.
I know. I feel a little bit like Crownsmen is the one holding things back now because we're still being like, oh, we're doing remote interviews. So thank you for doing this with us, and our team has been there. I hope that experience has been good so far. Can you give us a snapshot of MacLean, who they are, what they do, sort of what they're known for, and some of those internal, things about the company, all that? Just give us a snapshot of them.
Sure, sounds good. So MacLean Engineering started almost 50 years ago by a fellow named Don MacLean, and he worked in the mining industry for a while and saw some opportunities to improve productivity and safety. So he started building machines out of his backyard. So fast forward 50 years, and we're now north of 1,000 employees globally.
Wow.
Yeah, so pretty remarkable growth. And we design, manufacture, assemble, distribute our own mining equipment. So it's all the support equipment for the underground industry. So yeah, very exciting time in history to be part of that. It's definitely very busy right now. And we have machines across 4 product lines. So we got our iconic bolter, that's very popular in Canada. Then we have our shotcrete line, which we're steadily expanding and seeing a lot of growth in. We have our ore flow line, which means all the explosives, drilling, blasting, rock breaking, and then finally our utility vehicles, which bring materials from A to B or elevate people to do work at heights.
What would you have now? Would all those be pretty even in their what you ship out, or are there a couple items that are your sort of your top product or moving item?
It changes from year to year, and so some years we see stronger sales in one line versus another. I will say that our shotcrete line is kind of emerging right now, and we have been at it for a while, but we recently ownership put a lot of investment into new machines and new features, and we grew capacity within the team, and we're starting to see that pay off. And I think it will be quite a head turner when we continue to launch the full portfolio in shotcrete. So there's a lot of cool things happening in that area.
Alrighty, so let's take a moment to thank our sponsors. First up, we've got Micromine. As your mining projects accelerate, so should your technology. Micromine is a leading software provider to the global mining industry with solutions that support the entire life cycle from early exploration to advanced mine operation. Micromine enables explorers to prospect smarter, model faster, and estimate with greater confidence. They empower mining engineers to optimize strategic mine planning, streamline design, and schedule faster. Micromine's technology supports even the largest mines to gain greater operational control and boost performance. And they provide mining teams with reliable data management solutions to enhance insights, meet compliance, and safeguard digital assets. To learn how Micromine's next generation technology can help you, visit them at micromine.com today. Next up, we have Savannah Equipment. Savannah Equipment supplies new and used mining equipment around the world, from placer to underground to ore processing plants. They have gold concentrating tables, trommels, and mineral jigs in stock now to take advantage of the high gold prices. You can visit them at savannahEquipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. We also have Corporate Traveler. At Corporate Traveler, their seamless combination of expert service and innovative booking tech means you have what you need when you need it. Mining companies need experienced agents who know how to get you to far-to-reach destinations with ease, who understand rotational crew travel, chartering, and so much more. And with an average tenure of 8 years, their agents are the best in the biz and are experts at managing all your mining travel needs. Have an emergency? They've got your back 24/7, anywhere, on any device. Don't get stuck with complicated and rigid travel options. Get it done with Corporate Traveler. Visit them at corporatetraveler.com. We also have CIM. The 2022 edition of the Maintenance, Engineering, and Reliability Mine Operators Conference, or MEMO, is coming to Sudbury at Science North from September 18th to the 21st for a full in-person event. Join industry peers for 2 days of technical and keynote presentations where you will have the opportunity to learn about many of the ways the mining industry is leveraging technology to adapt to a new world. Networking events will offer a chance to build relationships with other mining professionals. The event also includes a trade show featuring some of the industry's most dynamic companies that is not to be missed. To register, go to memo2022.cim.org. And of course, we also have Goldcorp. In business since 1960, Goldcorp is a leading private manufacturer and distributor of specialty chemicals, equipment, parts, and accessories serving the energy and mining industry. Goldcorp manufactures and distributes a full line of driller's edge coring rods, core retrieval systems, and diamond tooling for diamond core drilling worldwide. They also manufacture and sell high-quality Earth Pro drilling fluids and additives for the mineral exploration and energy industries. For more, please visit them at die-corp.com or contact their head office at 780-440-4923. We also have Power Zone Equipment. When you need a specialized team of world-class engineers for your oil and gas pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with Power Zone. Visit them at powerzone.com.
And I'm just kind of curious. You've been with them for 2 years, so right before the world all went crazy, or during you joined. Did you find, though, even though you hadn't had experience with them before, MacLean, did you find that in development and sort of that laser focus, was there any advantages to it in a strange way? Because all of a sudden you're not sort of going all over the place and, you're not traveling and losing a whole day just to get to a location, that you really can hone in on the focuses, identifying what the customers need and sort of carrying that over as the world opens back up?
It's certainly been an interesting time. I will say, because I joined at a weird time in the world. At the early days, there was a lot of excitement about being able to do things remotely and connect with customers in that sense. And so, we were still able to develop new products and interview a lot of people remotely. For example, for a grader. We interviewed a lot of different operators for extended periods of time to really get into the nitty-gritty of the details. And so remote technologies really helped us with that. Having said that, I'm very excited to visit customers again and good to see the world opening up again. So.
Well, we were at CIM, and now we just did another interview here just before you, and I could see there was, people moving around the background. All of a sudden I had this, I was like, oh, I feel left out now. You can actually feel it and sort of see that excitement. You're in product management. So I was curious if you sort of have some insight. Again, want to get into this EV and remote control and all that type of thing. I wanted to get your perspective on sort of the biggest bottleneck with implementation of this. The technology is there, the capability is there. So I was just curious about sort of the hangups from the customer's perspective. What are some of the things you run into, or not even calling them hangups, but some of the questions you're getting as companies, mine operators are starting to adopt more and more of these types of solutions?
Well, for starters, there's no question crazy enough that I haven't heard it before.
Right.
And a lot of it is new, and so it's different. So you have to also approach it a little bit differently. We've gone through efforts to really try to minimize how different EV is from diesel. But still, it takes a little bit of a different mindset. And so when you talk to different mining companies, it kind of depends on what the motivation is and why people are interested in EV. But for the most part, there's definitely still a bit of sticker shock going on. I mean, the electric vehicles are more expensive. It takes a bit of a holistic approach to see that when you look at the whole picture, not just machine versus machine, there's value to be gained there. And it's just very interesting to see the different motivations, different projects, different operations on why they're interested in EV. But I would say sticker shock is one. The other thing are concerns around battery safety, and then the third big item would be the skill set that you require to maintain these vehicles. And those are sort of the three big themes, I would say.
Well, let's start with the sticker price. Start with the sticker price. Then is it, if you buy an electric vehicle in, just a consumer vehicle, that there's obviously government incentives and all that sort of stuff. Does that apply in the mining sector as well?
Not quite, and it varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction as well. It depends on what kind of programs governments all over the world have running. I know in the past, our one particular customer, Goldcorp at the time, was able to secure quite a bit of public funding, and that certainly helped because it was such an early mover to offset some of the financial risks.
Right.
And but I would say it's kind of like an ad hoc approach. It's not like there's a program if you buy an electric car where you get an automatic X amount of dollars to offset that cost. So I think the industry could benefit from more streamlined programming for funding, and also make it relatively easy to apply for funds. I know when I was on the side of Goldcorp, when I worked there as the study manager for the Borden project, it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. And however, the process to get the funding was pretty elaborate and took quite a bit, significant effort, and it was well worth it in the end. However, for maybe more junior companies, that is also maybe a barrier to look into those programs.
Right. If you're an operating mine, you kind of have the financial capital and the human capital to sort of invest in figuring out what all the right levers to pull is. When you're a junior, you just don't have that, or most wouldn't have it.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
What about the operator side? You said that, that's a question. Is it much different to, operate, some of your drilling and scaling and all this type of equipment that you're doing? Is it quite a different operator, or with basic training, can one operator jump to the next?
I would say it's pretty basic training. For the machines that plug in to do their job, it's relatively straightforward. It's whether it's a bolter or a shotcrete sprayer, it's the direct applications is no different. But when it comes to tramming, there are some things that the operator would need to know. Keep a close eye on the battery. Try not to overcharge it, so that when you're at the top of the ramp with a 95% full battery, and you have to travel down for a couple of kilometers, you can get yourself into trouble. And conversely, running the battery low is, of course, the other extreme. However, I would say that it's relatively basic, and we try to put a lot of effort into the screen in the machine as well to make it as simple as possible. But it takes a little practice and a bit of training. The bigger challenge is in the maintenance side. So it's a slightly different skill set, really. When you look at a diesel powertrain versus an EV powertrain, it's a lot more data driven, a lot more depending on visual inspections and looking at the data rather than turning wrenches necessarily. So it's definitely a gap in skilled labor that needs to be addressed as well. And we're trying to do our part to contribute to closing that gap as well.
So how do you go about that then? When you're bringing in a unit, are you also providing some sort of training program, maintenance program, or do you have some sort of manual that they can walk through to sort of train internally? How do you approach that?
Well, all of the above, basically. I mean, obviously, there's the hands-on training that we can provide on site. We have manuals that are always up to date through a portal. We're building out what we call the e-academy. So we're trying to build out the content in there with videos that people can look up and get trained on. But I would say that we kind of went above and beyond that to some extent. For example, with Cambrian College in Sudbury, where we partnered up to develop the curriculum for existing heavy-duty mechanics to be upskilled, and that training program is also used for students who are at school.
Well, that's
and
great.
Yeah, and part of that program is also hands-on training at our facility, our underground test site in Sudbury, and yeah, that hands-on training and getting trained by technicians who've been in the line of fire, so to speak, is very crucial. And we, of course, try to make it agnostic to the OEM. I mean, there's certain principles that apply for any electric machine,
Right.
really. So yeah, not trying to be too specific, and it's a bit of a basis. And then once you go through a course like that, it will be easier to catch on with on-site
Right.
training. Let's say.
It's sort of understanding the systems and the operation, and then you sort of have to tweak it based on the particular OEMs then.
Exactly. I mean, at a high level, a battery is a battery, an inverter is an inverter, and a motor is a motor. And so knowing what each component can do on a high level in the system, and getting some background on how you might possibly troubleshoot something like that is it's all useful information. And of course, once you get into the nitty-gritty on a specific machine,
Yeah.
there's more details to follow, but at least that sort of base level is there. And what's interesting is that Cambrian offered that course remotely as well for the first 3 modules. So, for example, our colleagues in South Africa are going through that course as well, at least to get all the theoretical bases and then go from there. So.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was kind of talking about when I said that, these last 2 years have sort of expedited just exactly what you just talked about, where you can start a program from Africa with a something out of Ontario, and now you've started on that process, and now you have to of course you got to bring in one-on-one and in person and all that sort of stuff, but you can sort of get a foundation, whereas that was sort of that was like an idea a couple years ago. It's not really something that was fully implemented.
Yeah, and I don't know what it was exactly, but it just seemed easier to just put people on a plane.
Right.
And that's still again the case now, where it becomes easier again, and we won't shy away from that. But let's be honest, a lot of the travel before everything went sideways probably could have been scaled back a bit, and I really foresee that we're now becoming more intentful on our travel purposes. At least that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. I was going to ask about the automation aspect. So, and sort of tie it together with if an operator is if they're bringing on battery power or EV power, is it getting coupled a lot of times with automation or remote control or things like that, or are they not necessarily going hand in hand?
I would say the remote control, there's certain machines where that makes sense regardless. So, for example, our water cannon, it's meant to bring out, it's meant to bring down hang-ups in the block cave mines, for example, where you spray, for a larger model, basically the equivalent of 6 hot tubs in about 4 minutes. And so you don't want to be anywhere close to the machine when it's spraying, because when it does come down, it gets very dusty, and so you definitely want to do something like that on a remote. And so whether it's an EV or diesel, that doesn't really matter.
Right.
But having said that, full automation or remote operations, I can see that coming. Right now, the projects that we've done are with diesel machines. And the thing that's sort of the missing link right now is how do you autonomously charge electric vehicles? Right now, we still depend on an operator to plug it in, and we got some ideas on how we can get around that, but that's still, I would say, about 2 years out or so.
Right. The other question I had was about, are you retrofitting any vehicles, or the new ones coming off the line as EVs, and then, or are you going back to, are you working with any companies to convert anything to electric?
It's our sort of experience that converting existing machines is problematic. Once they've been out in the field and you start pulling components out,
Right.
you uncover more and more things that need to happen.
Yeah.
It's and there are some minor differences as well between the frames, let's say, that require rework. We haven't had too many customers yet that really require or requested repowering diesel equipment. We can always unpin it at the articulation point. The way we kind of went about it is that the application side, so on sort of the non-powertrain side, we kept it almost identical, or as much as we could. Whereas on the engine end or the battery end, that's where it's different. So we can always supply half units and then pin them together on site.
I see.
But at the end of the day, yeah, we haven't encountered that too much. There was one experience where MacLean, and it's getting a little confusing because I was on the other side of the fence at the time, where MacLean was asked to convert an existing road grader. And so that was completed with help from partners. And that was particularly problematic because a grader is a very complicated piece of machinery. And to work out all the controls, we've had quite a few issues. And so that's not something that we're looking to repeat. And in response to that, we developed our own grader. And so we still saw that there was a solution or a need for a solution. And we just launched our grader, and the EV version will come out early next year.
I see. Oh, well, that's good to know. Yeah, I guess in that sense, you're probably almost better to put it as a used product onto the market and then just bring in a new one in most cases.
That does provide the cleanest solution as well. And then there's the other side as well. When you are trying to convert a piece of machinery, that piece of machinery is out of commission for a while.
Right.
And so what do you do in the meantime? You would have to find some sort of bridge unit. It gets a little messy sometimes. So the cleanest solution would be to either provide a half unit or looking at replacing and then trying to sell off the old machines.
You mentioned you were formerly with Goldcorp then?
Yeah, that's correct.
So can you try to walk us through? I mean, obviously there's that relationship, and did you say that they were kind of an earlier adopter of some of these EV models?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. So I joined Goldcorp in 2012. And then in 2015, when Goldcorp acquired Probe Mines Limited, I was basically on that project since day one after the acquisition closed, as a study manager. And yeah, so we were looking to develop that project, and we were challenged by by management to seriously consider electric equipment. And at that point, it was an interesting experience because the availability was much lower. I mean, a lot of the equipment was just not available in electric.
Right.
So that took a lot of effort to go through and sort things out. And that's where my working relationship with MacLean really began, albeit as a customer, of course.
What was it about MacLean that, I mean, obviously capability and availability, what was it about them that sort of built that relationship? I mean, it's a big investment for a company like, even a large organization like Goldcorp. It's still a big investment and time, and you're risking a new type of power being on your site and all that. There's a lot that goes into it. What was it that sort of did that final to push across the line using MacLean?
there was the fleet approach that MacLean could provide at the time, combined with support, that made it compelling to go that direction. And that's no different. Fast forward a couple of years, and that's no different right now. And we've been successful in a number of fleet bids now, which is very encouraging. And of course, we put our best foot forward and tell our story and tell our stories about the machines that we design and manufacture. And we were able to secure the fleet bids at Odyssey, for example, and at the On-Upping Depth project by Glencore.
So,
Yeah.
and that is kind of I don't know if that's unique to MacLean or anything like that, but are most companies, how common is it for them to do a whole fleet when they're just right across the line? If a company's going electric, are they a lot of time piecemealing it together, or will a lot of times it be a full fleet change?
Well, with new projects like Odyssey or On-Upping, or at the time Borden, from the onset, I think most mining operators will agree with me that you'll try to limit the amount of OEMs that you invite onto your site.
Right.
Right. And it makes sense because there's a lot of commonality in parts. So if you go into it with a fleet, it just makes sense from multiple angles. And I think what makes the offering that we put forward so compelling is that we provide such a wide range of machines that we can cover what some of the other OEMs are not providing. And so on top of that, because we're family owned, and we do our own design, and we've kind of grew our company, but with custom solutions as well, we can also try to work with the customer for the onesies and the twosies that would make sense in a fleet bid, to develop that out and make sure that the customer gets the solution that they're looking for. And I think that makes it, I would think for a lot of customers, an interesting case to go with us. Yeah.
Is that you just mentioned the family part? Is that, I mean, you're 1,000 employees, and you're building these machines, but does that sort of that roots in, you kind of already touched on it, is that flexibility where it's not so rigid, this is what you're getting, this is how it is, and now deal with any sort of customization outside of us? Is that still a competitive advantage that MacLean is bringing in the industry? I guess to clarify, are you doing some customization on most of the units depending on their needs?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think if you compare MacLean to other OEMs, you'll find that we hire proportionally a lot more engineers. So to give you some ideas, out of the roughly 1,000 employees, our engineering department consists of about 120, 130 people.
Wow.
And so that is pretty significant for the size of company that we have. And on one side, it speaks to the customization that we can provide to a lot of customers. The other hand, it also points to the incredible investment that we're putting into research and development, more so development of new products. So yeah, it's sort of at the roots of our company, where if a customer is looking for something, then we'll try to find a solution. And of course, we need to back that up with making sure that all of our engineering drawings are available, that we keep managing the changes, or the changes that we are either forced or recognize that we need to make after. So it's rigidity on one side, with having that engineering background and all the documentation, combined with trying to be as customer focused as possible. And it's actually an interesting time right now at MacLean. We are growing quite a bit, and so I will say that there are some limits in some cases on how much we can customize, and some completely new products, for example, with new frames and new ways to do things, will take a little bit more time to make sure that we can sell more than one or two. I mean, ultimately,
Right.
That's good for everybody. Yeah.
The just going back to the EV side of things, on that sort of I guess you have sort of an insight on the like Canada's approach to it, and as as the mining industry in Canada, as opposed to some of these Scandinavian companies in Europe and Africa, and sort of where Canada sits in comparison to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I'm very proud to live in Timmins in northeastern Ontario. Northeastern Ontario has been a front runner in EV. I mean, when you look at Macassa, for example, that were very early out of the gate, not with MacLean gear, but with other EV machines. I think they should be recognized as the first one out of the gate. And Borden was, definitely a good number two with a more holistic approach for the entire site. And then the Sudbury Basin have been very early adopters as well. So between those couple of places, that's really where it accelerated. And thanks to those customers, right now we're able to really take pole position in the EV side of things. I mean, we've been at it for about 7 years now. We started design back in 2015 of the first EV bolter, and we built approximately 50 units to date. We got several fleet orders, so that number steadily increases. And we got well over 120,000 operating hours. And as you go through each risk assessment with customers, or you review incidents that happen in the industry, we keep coming out with stronger and stronger products, and also stronger support as well. Yeah.
On the decarb side, is this? I'm seeing more of course, junior miners are presenting their case for their mines as a sort of a decarbonized approach and efficiency approach and clean and everything that they can do. How much is that? And of course, your product line is going to have a major impact in those presentations, both to investors and governments, indigenous groups, right across the board. So how much of a difference is it making in attracting capital? I know it's a little outside of your perspective right now, but just from your sort of being within the industry, what do you see for that?
Well, I mean, it's just I find this fascinating, to be honest. I think when you look at some junior companies, I can think of an example on the prairies there, a base metal mine that's marketing itself very effectively to be zero emissions. It seems that they're just being able to attract so much more capital or fill their requests so much quicker.
Yeah.
It's a very compelling case, right? And I mean, I think it really came in it kind of went through a bit of an acceleration when Elon Musk started talking about mining. I mean, that guy
really
is
changed. It changed.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether you look at a company like Foran or Canada Nickel north of Timmins, so that's close to home for me, where they can in their open pit mine with different technologies and also carbon sequestration in the tailings come to net negative or net neutral. I think it's the way forward, and it makes that whole discussion around green supply chain so much more interesting when you can get green metals. And I think one of the missing links that I would like to add is that it gets even cooler when you can have green technology to produce those metals, and especially in mines where some of those base metals that go into let's say the permanent magnet motors or the batteries are used. It kind of seems to complete that cycle a bit more. So
right.
It makes for a very, very compelling story. And I will say, for the Canadian customers, on top of that, the fact that we're based in Ontario and headquartered here and support a lot of local jobs goes a long way as well. So
yeah, absolutely. How long have you been in the industry yourself?
Well, I moved to Timmins close to 14 years ago after I graduated. So that's been in the industry, let's say about 16 years now.
Have you seen? I mean, so you've been long enough to see a couple cycles then. Have you seen a cycle like this where the global demand, I mean, you've seen cycles where the gold price skyrocketed, so then mining gets all churned up. But that's sort of I don't want to call it a fake surge, but it's not as stable as one. Have you seen one before that the market demand is so high?
No, not really. I mean, like you say, it's especially living in a place like Timmins where we produce both base metals and gold. I
Hmm.
mean, if base metals are doing well, gold is usually lagging, and vice versa. So you kind of shelter from that in a way. But now to see everything come to a boom at the same time, it's pretty exciting. And yeah, I mean, kind of makes you wonder what's next in store. And I'm certainly not qualified to really talk about bigger economic trends or anything. But I mean, the physical demand for products, for metals to support a green economy, that is real. That's I
Yeah, and
have no
that's what
other
I'm
way to
referring
say
to.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm referring to is just that there's, I mean, if 50 mines got going tomorrow, it still wouldn't meet the demand. Like it's not, we're a long way. We have like Ontario, it seems like they're sort of ramping up now. Um, but it just, and I'm not the sort of, I'm not usually bullish, I guess you'd say, but it just, you can see that there is a demand and that demand has to be met. And it's, frankly, it seems like we're about 10 years behind meeting that demand. So I think we're just sort of at the start of the surge, it would seem.
Yeah, and then of course it takes, well, in Ontario, I don't know what the exact timeline is, but between first discovery and getting into
Oh,
production,
yeah.
it's typically like 15, 20 years at least, right? So I think we need a lot more geologists licking rocks everywhere to try and meet that demand. But and it's interesting too. Like I come from Europe, right? Born and raised there, and for some reason people seem to think that with a circular economy with 100% recycling, you can meet demand for a new metal that all of a sudden surges in demand. And I don't buy that for a second. Well, for starters, a lot of metals are in products that people like using for a long time, whether it's in buildings or
Yeah.
ships or whatever it is, and so they're not immediately made available to recycle. And so, yeah, I think there's always going to have to be an input into that uh, sort of circular model there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time. It really is to be part of the mining industry. And I think companies like MacLean, it just there's something about the company that actually builds it that sort of makes it special. And I have just a blast doing a lot of the software conversations and things like that. But there's just that thing when you're the company that builds the machine that's actually on the ground doing it. So thanks a lot, Maarten, for coming on the show. It's been a lot of fun having you, and I hope we get to do it again. I hope this is not just a one-off, that MacLean does come back and we can kind of continue to follow the story, because I know there's lots more to accomplish in the future.
Oh, 100%. We just got started. I mean, yeah. So look forward to come back.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that was a great way to end the day. And I hope everyone has been. I mean, this will get released after PDAC, but I hope everything's going well and it's busy there. Thank you for watching, everyone. Please keep suggesting, and if you're interested in being on the show, we'll have plenty of links. You just need to reach out to us and start the conversation. Thank you for watching. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.